On Thursday, there was about a 10-minute period where gold dropped like $300. I forget exactly how much, but it was a huge drop and an even bigger drop in silver. So both gold and silver closed way down on the day. I forget where silver closed. It was still, I believe it was above 100, but barely. Gold closed above 5,100, but still about, $500 of its high.
Silver's down 32% today. Maybe Monday or Tuesday, it's back up at all-time highs. And it's just going to shake the heck out of people. And people will jump back in and think, oh my gosh, it's about to take off. That was just a pullback. I don't think it's going to go a whole lot higher. I had a target at 106 last week. And when I was at the VRIC event, I said, listen, when it hits 106, that is our technical level. Once it breaks 106, it's going to go into a euphoric emotional phase. And it did. It spiked. I said it was going to go to 120, 130, or 140. It went to pretty much 120. And then we've seen it top out here. Everything is moving exactly as planned.
Gold and silver shocked markets with a sudden, violent sell-off, shaking out late-stage investors after a euphoric run. Gold plunged nearly $300 in minutes before closing well below recent highs, while silver suffered an even steeper percentage drop. According to technical analysts like Chris Vermeulen, the move aligns with key resistance levels near 106, where emotional buying peaks. Meanwhile, Peter Schiff has long warned that extreme volatility is the hallmark of speculative phases. This pullback may be temporary, but the topping process appears underway. Now, we present the clips from theirs interview. Before we continue to discuss this, please subscribe to our channel and activate the bell icon for timely updates. Thank you, and enjoy the video.
On Thursday, there was about a 10-minute period where gold dropped like $300. I forget exactly how much, but it was a huge drop and an even bigger drop in silver. So both gold and silver closed way down on the day. I forget where silver closed. It was still, I believe it was above 100, but barely. Gold closed above 5,100, but still about, $500 off of its high. And then the following day, on Friday, it was even worse. And gold and silver got killed again. Gold closing below 5,000. It closed at about 4,900, I think, $4,900 approximately. So yeah, gold must have closed, it must have closed well above 5,100. It must have been 50, 52 or 53, I forget. And it was lower. It was lower during the day. It didn't close on the low, but it closed pretty close. Silver got all the way down to below 80. In fact, about an hour before I just went live, silver was down almost $8. It was trading at around $77 an ounce. So about 36% below the record high that it hit on Thursday. Now, as I am recording this live, silver has actually bounced back and it's now up $1.50. So it's back at around $86.50. And gold, which was almost down $200 earlier, I think I saw it down about 170, 180, is now down about 57. And in fact, 5 minutes ago, it was only down 20. So it's a very volatile session.
I think the metals are close to topping. If they haven't topped already, I do think we're still going to get a big bounce. But this was definitely a panic, sell-off, dump kind of day. And there's going to be bargain hunters. Usually the first really sharp pullback on a move like this, where the whole world just chased it, a lot of them are going to panic out, but a ton of people are going to pile right back in and probably drive silver back up to like 110 or 120. Maybe even higher in a day or two, but we'll just have to see how that unfolds. See silver back at $40 in like 3 days. That's what I don't want to see, because the problem is once we broke 106 and we locked in profits at like 113 or something yesterday or a couple days ago, it puts us into bubble territory. And while I can gauge and trade technicals when you're reaching targets, once you break a target and you're into no man's land, and it is clearly a euphoric move, people are chasing it. They're loving it. Bubbles are unpredictable. And you don't know if it is going to have a very volatile top and go back up and hit all-time highs 1 or 2 sessions later, or if it is just going to go into like elevator free fall mode straight down. And so I'm hoping to paint a picture. Like I'd like to see it in my head, move back up to 110, 120. Then I can unload potentially the rest of my position because I still hold a good chunk of precious metals. That's the scenario I want, but it could roll over and continue to sell off. And depending on how it moves, I might have to liquidate at a much lower price, the balance of my position, which is just part of the game. When you play a bubble, you're always taking the risk that any day could wipe out a huge chunk of that. And that's what we're seeing with this big pullback. But I'm hopeful that there's going to be a bargain hunter stepping in, buying this bounce. I know a lot of people are clinging on to like a 30% correction or so. That's what it pulled back today. And so that means a lot of people are going to step back in and buy it and think it's bargain hunting. So the reason I think it's going to bounce just because of sentiment. There's so many people chasing it. They pay a premium, then they scale, they get scared and they get shaken out, but then they jump right back in and they like take another run at it because it starts to move up and they don't want to miss out on the next move. So just because sentiment is as extreme as it is, I feel like the top's probably not in yet. I think there's going to be people jumping in for one more bout of buying. And I think if we get a big bounce here, it's the daily chart. You can see it takes a staircase up and the elevator down. This was a very big pullback in the past 24 hours. When you have a very sharp pullback to an extreme level, this is to a 50-day moving average. I actually had done some Fibonacci analysis, some retracement level. And if we were to do some retracement levels, so a Fibonacci retracement, if people don't know what that is, go look up the Fibonacci theory. It is extremely powerful. Long story short, it's everywhere in the universe. And so we can figure out based on this run up, the universe, the way things seem to unfold, the sweet spot is between the 50% pullback and the 38% pullback. It came right down into this sweet spot. It's found support. On top of that, Ben, we've got it hitting this level right through here. This was a very critical level for silver. This was a pause, a sideways movement that's naturally going to act as a support. There was a lot of volume traded through there. So silver had this emotional move down into the sweet spot. And now it could easily bounce and drift its way back up. I think if it got back up, it probably into these lows over here, which is about 103. It'd be pretty tempting to start scaling out and selling off some more of the position because it could very easily roll over and go down a bit. So the bargain hunters right now is simply when you have a move that happens too quick. It just happens very fast. It's clearly an emotional move. Smart money generally steps in really quickly and starts to buy things back up. And of course, it came down to here and it's already had a nice bounce percentage-wise. And I think we could see eventually people jump in and start to chase pricing higher because it's very emotional. So that's why I think we're going to get this bounce. From a technical standpoint, the damage has been done. If you sell right here, you're selling it at, and I don't want to do that. And as much as I gave back a huge chunk of the profits that I had, I still want to give the benefit of the doubt. The trend is still clearly up. A lot of damage is done with a bar like that, but all the moving averages are up. It's still holding a critical support zone, Fibonacci support as well. And so I want to see if we're going to get that bargain hunting buyback. And we've already started to see that with the bounce. Now, in terms of like the bubble bursting, it's if everybody switches gears, I mean, just like literally a day ago, I met people at VRIC who had never bought metals before, and they had literally on this big 15% up day, I was talking to somebody and they like, I just bought silver for my first time. I bought physical silver, and I made a joke. I'm like, oh, you bought into the suckers rally. And it's kind of what it was. Like, this was the emotional phase, right? This is like the last big push before there's some event. Usually the last people to get in, like the people who have held out as long as they possibly could, who are possibly open to the idea of buying, those, when they break and they all seem to buy, that's when you get this big push. Now, the question is, do they all switch their mind going from, because a lot of the people there at this event, because it's very resource heavy, they're all talking about $200 silver. And so the bargain hunters are going to be like, wow, I just got it, at a killer deal and it's going to go to 200. But what happens now is if people get too much damage done and they take a loss, they could change their mind very quickly. And suddenly they're going to be picturing like big red bar. And they're like, I don't want to hold this anymore.
Gold and silver experienced extreme volatility as a sharp, panic-driven sell-off erased weeks of gains in just days. Gold plunged from recent highs near 5,300 to below 5,000, while silver collapsed more than 35%, briefly trading near $77 before rebounding. The move reflects a classic bubble phase shakeout, where emotional buying gives way to fear. Technical damage is evident, yet key support levels and sentiment-driven bargain hunting suggest a short-term bounce is possible before the broader topping process fully unfolds. Let's get back to the interview.
Silver has dropped 36%, just not this quickly. Same thing with gold, right? Gold has fallen by 10, 15%, but just not in 2 days, right? This is really an unprecedented move down. Now, the question is, why did this happen? And does it change anything? Right? Am I now bearish on gold or silver because of this big drop? Now, the first thing to keep in mind is we just had this crash in gold and silver, right? But silver is right now over $86 an ounce. A couple of weeks ago, that would have been an all-time record high. So yes, we've had this spectacular decline, but all it did is bring silver back to where it was a couple of weeks ago, right? It erased this, major move up, but I don't think it's done any real damage to the bull market. It may have done some damage to some speculators who were highly leveraged and maybe got in recently and now got, stopped out and lost money. Same thing with gold. Gold is still close to 5,000. It's 4,800.
Gold, a lot of volatility. Both gold and silver have done the same thing. And I covered this in a morning video with members. So I love Fibonacci extension. So based on this previous rally that we saw and this pullback down to this low, if we carry that forward, we end up getting these moves. And so you have this rally up, you've got the pullback, and then you hit the 618, which we got into gold over here for a quick trade. We locked in partial profits, and then we hit our 100% measured move right here. And if I zoom in, what happens after you hit a 100% measured move is you go into these euphoric phases. And our move for gold was 176, somewhere in here was our big move. And so we ended up closing out part of our gold position right over here. And then once you hit that 100% measured move, you go into an emotional state. And after an emotional state, like both of these, this and this, you go into a very big pullback and it takes months to consolidate. So for all we know, gold and silver are going to trade sideways, build another launch pad, and then maybe we see a bigger run up to 6,000, 8,000, who knows? So both gold and silver are doing exactly what they do when they hit these targets, and then the emotional people chase it and pile in right at the end, and then it puts them through this roller coaster ride. And so the big question is this a pause before going higher, or is it, a top? And at this point, the trends are still up, and trends are more likely to continue than they are to reverse direction. Although everybody always tries to pick bottoms and tops, it's a long-term losing strategy. Just stick with the underlying trend. This is a sharp pullback. It was emotional driven. It's at support. And so we got to give it the benefit of the doubt.
I really appreciate that explanation. And I would like to get some more clarity on when you eventually see gold and silver actually falling down. Because right now it sounds like you see in the short term it continuing to trend upward. But when that does happen, is this something that people should be really, really concerned about? If you look out 3 to 6 months, what would that look like for you?
Yeah, I think it's something to be concerned about. I mean, precious metals is a very sensitive topic, right? People involved in it are involved in it for a lot of different ways. A lot of them think, and I'm not saying they're wrong, a lot of them are heavy into the government and a lot of manipulation, and the currencies are going to collapse, and long-term, I believe long-term gold and silver are going to keep going up. Just like everything else, there's inflation, everything goes up over time. It doesn't matter if you buy at a real estate peak or you buy at a precious metals peak, give it 5-10 years, you'll be back up there most likely and hitting all-time highs. It's just, I don't want to have a lost decades where there's no returns and you're suffering, right? I'd rather rotate my capital elsewhere. But looking forward, I mean, if gold can sell off 10 or 12% in one day, silver can drop 32% in one day, that's just letting some air out of the bag. I think the markets could go for a much bigger correction. I still think gold is going to fall 30 to 40%. I think silver is going to go 40 to 60%. And I think that could potentially take months. In fact, I think it could actually take a year or two to actually base out, stabilize, start to move up, and then start to make all-time highs again. It could be a year or two away. And that's not what anybody's expecting. All the media, we're in the perfect storm for precious metals to go through the roof, which they just have, but people think the roof is a whole lot higher. But the charts are showing us this is the roof. This is usually what happens right at the end of a parabolic move. And so I think if you're, I don't fall in love with gold and silver. I mean, I've held them forever. And my members and I were talking about it when we sold gold and silver the other day, physical gold. We're it feels like we kind of lost a family member, right? Because we've had physical gold forever. Now we feel naked. We're now we're exposed with no protection from a currency collapse, all that stuff. It's a funny feeling, right? And so a lot of people never want to sell gold ever because they believe there's just so much so many things going wrong. There's people like me who can sell it. We're not that attached. I want to buy some back as soon as I can when I think it's a fair value, but I think we could pick it up with gold, maybe at 3,600, maybe at 3,300. I think we could get silver back down somewhere at potentially the $50 or $60 mark, and pick it up when it's got good value. I'd love to lock in those profits and purchase it back later. So it's really tough to tell how this will play out. It's the same with the financial crash. We're going to have one. It's just a matter of time. The question is it like a 2008 where it's like 8 months of just precipitous falling, very painful, very violent? Or is it going to be like a tech bubble unwinding that takes 3 years of falling prices and big slow bounces lower and lower? We don't know. Most people are leaning to precious metals going through the roof. Everything's going to fall apart, but it's kind of like buy the rumor, sell the news. Precious metals, when you look at gold, you look what gold has been doing here for a few years. If we go and look at silver, they've been going higher. People have been buying into the rumor that the world's going to fall apart. Currencies are going to blow up. All kinds of stuff is happening.
Gold and silver suffered an unprecedented, emotionally driven crash, with silver plunging over 36% and gold dropping more than 10% in just days. Despite the violence of the move, prices merely reset to levels seen weeks earlier, leaving the long-term uptrend intact. Technical signals suggest a euphoric peak, followed by a multi-month consolidation. While short-term bounces are likely, deeper corrections of 30–60% remain possible before precious metals establish their next durable bull market leg. Share your thoughts on his analysis in the comments section below. If you find this video informative, please support us by turning on notifications to stay informed about our latest videos. See you in the following video. Thanks for watching.